Welcome again to another webinar. Today's webinar is going to be a discussion on self-advocacy. Further discussion, we had our webinar on Tuesday where we had begun this conversation, and today we're going to dig a little further and offer you information. And of course, we're going to allow an opportunity for engagement, questions and answers, and we love to be able to have you guys be a part and really chat with us and let us know where you're at with this whole topic of self-advocacy as you're moving from transitioning from youth and students to being adults. We're working to be able to help prepare you folks for this endeavor as you're moving forward. And we're happy to have you folks here. A reminder that right following our webinar this morning, those of you who are a part of our project schools, and I know you guys know who you are, you'll receive a little message to go into the breakout room following the webinar where we'll have our focus sessions. So we look forward to having you there as well. And so at this point, I want to introduce you folks to Dr. John Johnson, who is our speaker for today. And he comes to us from the University of South Dakota. And he has worked diligently in this area of self-advocacy. He is a member of the Council for Exceptional Children, Division on Career Development and Transition, and the American Educational Research Association. Not to mention the American Evaluation Association. So he's been very active in working towards being able to assist in laying down a lot of the framework necessary, a lot of the education needed to be able to, prepare our the foundation of our location to prepare you folks to be able to learn so much more about how you can take care of yourselves and stand up and find your voice. So with all of that, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Johnson to be able to share with us. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. And I just want to thank you all for joining the webinar, and also and I want to wish everyone a good morning. And it looks like some of you are ready for the holiday season. So the hats and the beards are much appreciated. So y'all look good. So good morning to you all. So let me start with well, first of all, a little bit of background besides all the professional stuff that Wendy talked about. I'm also a community organizer. So I do a lot of training with partners in policy making. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that, but I've done a lot of things about how to organize and provide testimony and how to do protests, and I've even participated in protests. So I've done a lot of work in terms of the area of self-advocacy, as well as being a self-advocate for myself. I also, just so you know, I have a disability, use a wheelchair, so been around the block a few things on that. So what do you all, I'm just curious, just to get a start, do all of you, well, let me just ask you this question. How many of you think of yourselves, if you will, as self-advocates, and what does that mean to you? Anybody want to jump in and talk a little bit about what you think a self-advocate really is, instead of me lecturing or trying to explain it to you? What do y'all think it is?
Well, I think for self-advocacy, it means to not judge someone by their looks. Like when someone is in a wheelchair and they can't walk, it doesn't mean that you can still be friends, even though some of them are in a wheelchair.
Okay, that's good. So that means that you look at everyone as being a potential advocate?
Uh,
Good. Anybody else? What are your thoughts about self-advocacy? What is it? And are
We
you
have
are you a self-advocate? Go ahead.
some
being
responses.
able to
Go ahead, Kyle. Go ahead.
being able to advocate yourself.
Okay.
And then we also, Billy Williams also added, said that same thing. And a Kira Edgar said, self-advocacy means asking for help when you really need it.
Okay. All right. So those are some ideas, and those are all great ideas. And everyone who commented on that is absolutely right. Are there any other ideas? I mean, how many of you, let me just ask you this, how many of you in this meeting right now think of yourselves as a self-advocate? Just, if you will, raise your hands, just so I can get an idea. Raise your hand if you think you're a self-advocate. Okay. All right, good. That's good. That's what I'm looking for. So what I want to do, I'm going to share my slide presentation. Can everybody see this?
Yes. Oh,
Okay,
Go ahead.
so
So
self-advocacy.
Israel,
So are we good here, Wendy? And
yeah, the one thing I saw is Israel was sharing that he was not able to see it. Israel, do you have another monitor? Or are you able to? He's sharing his screen, so you may have to click on your, the Zoom box, and it'll bring up any other little screens that have come up. And there may also be a support here that's with you in the class that might be able to jump on and assist. So if you want to just let us know in the chat what help you need, that would be fine. Okay, thank you, John.
okay, Wendy. So so here's what I think self-advocacy is, because people have different ideas about what it means. And what I think it means is that you're speaking up for yourself and you're saying things that are important to you. First and foremost, this is about what you want and what you need. And it's also about telling people what you're thinking and what your feelings are, so that people understand that you have a right to tell people what's on your mind. You have a right to speak up for yourself. You have a right to ask for what you want and what you need. So these are really important things for you to do. No, a lot of times people with disabilities, we go through life and we always hear what people are telling us what we need to do or what we should be doing. And sometimes they need to stop and ask us, what do we want? What do I think I need for myself? And that's one of the things that we need to deal with in terms of self-advocacy and understanding what it is. So it's knowing what your rights are and what your responsibilities are, and speaking up for your rights. It's also about making choices and decisions for yourself. What is it you want to do with your life? And what is it that you decide that you want to, what you want to achieve? What are your goals? What's important to you in your life? Okay, so this is not just about thinking, okay, I'm an advocate because I'm a person with a disability. Everybody that has a disability is not always a good self-advocate, because they don't speak up for themselves and they don't speak up for the rights and responsibilities of other people as well. So it's really important that you understand that this is about what you need and what you want for your life. What do you all think about what I just said?
Well, what you said about it is that we can make our own choices and decisions that affect our lives, but sometimes some people may have a different choice.
That's exactly right. But the important thing is to know what those choices are. You're so right about that. How about anybody else? Other people? Come on, folks, jump in here.
We have a comment from Kira. Having anxiety makes it hard to be a self-advocate because I'm being shy and being afraid to talk to people. Makes it hard to speak up for help or for what you need.
That's really important because that's the challenge that a lot of folks have. And this is where sometimes if you really want to speak up for yourself, it's important to have a support person next to you. So who will support you? And can you have a conversation with that person about what it is that you want? What are your choices? What are your goals? And having that person step up and help guide you through that process. So that's really important too. Other folks.
So
Anybody else want to jump in?
I got the advocacy.
Uh-huh.
For self-advocacy.
Okay. Michaela?
It self-advocacy. It just to be yourself and love yourself for who you are.
That's a really good starting point. Loving yourself, taking care of yourself, talking about yourself. All those are really important things that self-advocates do. Noah, jump in there. Unmute yourself. There you go.
Oh, all right, I'll jump. Well, I pretty much know for sure if you have a disability, that doesn't mean that you can't do more in your life.
Absolutely. You're exactly right on that, Noah. And that is the starting point for being a good self-advocate. So here are some things to think about to know if, go ahead, Noah. I'm sorry.
Even though, yeah, well, for me, for example, even though I have one, but I'm still doing more right now.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's what a self-advocate is always doing more and standing up for yourself.
I probably already put this in the chat, but let me find it. I said if you don't get out there and advocate for yourself, up and state your mind, sorry. I totally messed it up.
No, you did. You were saying something that's really important. Go ahead and finish what you were going to say. I really want to hear what you were going to say.
If we don't get out there and state our mind, we won't be able to advocate for ourselves.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. Good for you. So these are some things that you'll know if you're a good self-advocate. So one is if you're speaking up for yourself. And by speaking up for yourself, that's letting folks know what you think, what you feel, and really importantly, what do you want for yourself? And can you let people tell people, this is what I want for myself? And not just let people talk for you, but you talk for yourself. Even if people say, oh, well, I think she wants this, or I think he wants that, you say, no, 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 that's not what I want. This is what I want. That's what a good self-advocate
Well,
does.
unless it's in the case of you told him to let them know that, then it wouldn't be all right to always have someone speak on your behalf.
Okay, that's right. But you really want to be able to speak for yourself. You want to find your voice. Self-advocacy is always about your voice, not someone else's voice, your voice.
I know. I'm just giving an example to that sort of actually that's basically it.
That's right. That's
Yeah,
exactly
in the
right.
case of some people who aren't always able to actually use their voice.
I think we all have a voice. We all have a voice.
I meant like in physical wise.
Right.
But
And what you want to do is you want to find your voice and find a way that if you can't say it, you've got a support person who also can help you express your voice.
that's what I was trying to bring up pretty much.
Perfect. So you're a self-advocate if you know and speak up not only for yourself, but also for the rights of others. So there's two types of self-advocates, and we're actually, all of us are both of those. One is where I speak up for my rights. So if I'm in a meeting and I want a goal in my planning meeting, I let people know this is what my goals are. This is what I want to do in my meeting. Another way is where someone for example, at your school, or you see somebody that a good example might be somebody who's being bullied or something like that, and you speak up for them and you tell people this is what he or she wants and this is what I really want to do to support them. So if you speak up for the rights of others, that's another type of self-advocacy. And so it's really why this is so important, especially for people with disabilities, is it gives you a lot more control and and helps you make life decisions that are important to you. So it makes you a leader. You're a leader of yourself, and if you're advocating for other people, you're a leader of other people. So ultimately, this is about becoming a leader. And a lot of folks don't think about self-advocacy as being a leadership skill, but every good leader is a good self-advocate. And then self-advocacy also helps you decide what is it you want to do with your life and make decisions. What kind of decisions do I want made? And how many of these decisions are decisions that I like, that I agree with, that are important to me, not just to everybody else, but they're important to me. And so these are really important things that we know. And then there are organizations, and some of you might be familiar with these, but a couple of organizations like People First is one, Self-Advocates Becoming Empowered is another one. And these are self-advocacy groups that you can join, and they teach a lot about self-advocacy. So, for example, Self-Advocates Becoming Empowered, they think everybody with disabilities should be treated as equals. That means equal to people who don't have disabilities. And it also means that we have the right to and should be given the same decisions, the same choices, the same rights and responsibilities, and the same chances to have power, as well as to make new friends and keep our old friends just like everyone else. And that we should also be able to learn from our mistakes. We all make mistakes. including people with including teachers, including people who help us. So we have to be able to learn from our mistakes. And sometimes one big mistake that self-advocates make is we let people talk too much for us instead of with us. Does everybody understand what that means? What's the difference between somebody talking for you compared to somebody talking with you?
Well, I actually have an example about that. When, let's say that there's a bully and you stand up for the person that's being bullied.
Okay, so that's being a self-advocate for the person being bullied. That's right. What about the other question, and that is, so you, in that case, you're talking with someone. You're standing with them, not talking for them or about them. What other ways can we become self-advocates? And I'm
How
going to
about
put
you,
another
Kinsey?
slide up here. What are some of the other ways we can become self-advocates?
How about you, Kinsey?
I'm sorry, Kyle, go ahead.
How about you, Kinsey?
Okay. Wendy,
have
I didn't hear that. Can you help me out here? Kyle, can you say it one more time? Because I think my audio blacked out.
Standing up for yourself. Standing up for
Yeah,
yourself.
I'm having trouble hearing what you're saying. Also, maybe with your mask on, it's making it difficult for us to be able to hear you, Kyle. Are you able to type it into the box and then we'll be able to clearly see? And then we'll mention it at that point while we grab another person's comment.
Yeah, so we have something from Kira. Talking for me would mean someone not letting me express my own opinions and persuading their opinions into my mind, which makes me not be able to talk for myself.
Oh, wow, that's really important. Who made that comment?
It was Kira.
Kira, very, very good comment. Very good comment. So, Kira, that is really a really important understanding of yourself. And that's a really powerful understanding for a leader. So good for you. Good for saying that, and good for recognizing that. So you're really on your way to becoming a really good self-advocate if you see that. Now, the next step is to ask yourself, Kira, what can I do differently to make sure my voice is heard? Because it sounds like you found your voice. Now you got to get it heard. So good for you.
It looks like Christian would like to ask a question or
I'm open. Go ahead, Christian.
It's Tarver. So yeah, the question I got is, when we have opinions in our minds and everyone want to speak up to ourselves, which is called having responsibility, so we can speak and with others, and they can listen to our goals are, like something like that, and then makes us becomes a leader to ourselves.
That's exactly right. So was that Christian? Is that who I'm hearing?
Yes, my name is Christian Tarver, so I just
Okay, so Christian,
called by Tarver.
spot on, absolutely spot on. That was a really good explanation of what a good self-advocate is. That was a better explanation than anything I've just said. So good for you. So here are some of the things that self-advocacy is about. And a lot of you have just mentioned it. But the other thing that self-advocacy, and the last two points I want to show here, and I've got my little arrow pointing here, but leading yourself and others, self-determination, and the other thing is recognizing you have the authority to speak for yourself. You don't need permission to speak for yourself. All right? You should just speak up. Give yourself permission to talk, to find your voice. Does everybody understand what I mean by that? Okay, good. I see a lot of nodding heads. So this is a video. I'm not going to go on it. Maybe Wendy, you can share this. It's like three and a half minutes, but you can watch that. But the video is about people, some folks that are with disabilities talking about what they think self-advocacy is for them, and they're really well-known self-advocates in the country. So let's talk about some examples, and I'm going to share a couple of stories. And let me just ask, how are we doing on time here?
Doing good. It's only 9:30, so.
Okay, good. All right, so I got 15 minutes. All right. So here are a couple of examples. So David is 16 years old, all right, and he receives special ed services at in his school, and he also participates in all of his planning meetings. So he goes to when they have meetings about what he's doing in school and what his goals are. He goes to all of those meetings. And then he in helping people deciding what he wants to do, he tells them what kinds of supports he feels he needs and how he can benefit from them. So he's included in the conversation about his goals, and he's also held accountable, meaning that people look to him for his role in trying to meet those goals and setting those goals. So what David does is he goes to those meetings with his own goals. He sets his own goals. Now, that doesn't mean that teachers don't have goals that they think he should meet, because that's important too. But he also comes to the table with his own goals. And that's really important. So that's one story. And David's 16 years old, and he takes a leadership role in what his educational plan looks like. He doesn't just let teachers take the role and then he doesn't do anything. He's responsible for helping teachers decide what he wants to do while he's in school. And that's really important. So that's one way you can be a good self-advocate. And David is an example of that. Here's another one. So Matt's 14 years old, uses a wheelchair, and his English teacher doesn't mean to, but sometimes uses language about people with disabilities that Matt really doesn't like. He finds them what he calls offensive. So his teacher doesn't mean to do this, but the teacher uses words like handicapped or nonverbal, or sometimes uses the R word. And so Matt writes his teacher. What he did is he wrote his teacher a really polite letter explaining his feelings about how he feels like his disability should be talked about, and he explains people first language and gives the teacher a little bit of a brochure and gives them a website that talks about People First language. How many of you have heard about People First language?
What is that?
Can I say something real quick?
Have you all talked about People First language? Raise your hands if you know what People First language is. I'm just curious. Elsa, you know what People First language is? Can you tell everybody what it is?
Yeah.
Your audio's a little garbled there, Elsa.
Elsa, can you type something in the chat and kind of let us know what you think People First language is? Okay. Anybody else want to talk about People First language and why it's important?
John, we did have one question from Kira who asked if being a self-advocate and being responsible for your own tasks are the same thing.
And who asked that question, Wendy?
Kira.
So Kira, the answer is yes, they are the same thing. Being a self-advocate is maybe a little bit more, but being able to do what you just described is a really important first step. So absolutely, what you are describing there is a very good, strong first step to becoming a good self-advocate. So I want you all, maybe one of your assignments, and you can do this, is when you get on the computer, and most of you know how to Google something, right? Everybody know how to Google? How to look for something on Google? Y'all know how to do that, I'm sure. I want you to Google, see where it says People First language? I want you to Google People First language and see if you use that language and you ask other people to use that language. And asking other people to use that language when they talk about your disability and you using that language is really important. Why? Because it's about being respectful. It's also about being respectful about your disability, and it's being respectful to you. So if people want you to respect them, they also have to respect you. And one way they can respect you is using People First language. Okay? So all of you should Google People First language. Okay? So that's a little bit of a homework assignment you might have. So here's the thing about another example, a story of a really strong self-advocate. Kendra's 12 years old, and she receives a lot of physical and occupational therapy, but she really doesn't like her therapist. And the reason she doesn't like her therapist is because her therapist doesn't respect what she wants to do. And often when she gets into her therapy sessions, her therapist will do things like touch her in ways that she doesn't want to be touched, or move her around in ways that she doesn't want to be moved around. And sometimes it doesn't feel good when she does that. So what she does is she doesn't feel like her therapist respects her.
I know what it is.
So
Give me a second.
who was that? Is there somebody that wants to say something?
Yes.
Okay.
What I wanted to say is, is people's first language would mean putting someone first and not their disability, like treating them as a person.
That's exactly right.
Because I feel like I want to be treated as a person instead of let's say autistic. Like, oh, it's the autistic kid or something. I don't want to be treated that way.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So putting you first ahead of the disability is what people first language is about. So that's really good. So again, everybody should check online and see what people first language is, and make sure people speak to you respectfully. So this is so we were talking a little bit about Kendra, and she doesn't feel like her therapist respects her. So what she did is she talked about how she felt with her parents and her mom and dad. So what happened was she scheduled a meeting with her principal and her parents, and she to discuss what can be done to change the situation. And so in this case, what ultimately happened was that after they had a conversation with the principal and the parents, that the principal then had a conversation with the therapist, and the therapist decided that she needed to change the way that she worked with Kendra. So they worked together to set up ways in which Kendra felt she was being respected.
But you aren't! Quit lying!
So does that make sense? Does that help everyone to understand what Kendra was going through?
Yes.
Okay, last story here.
I think Israel has a statement or a question. He had his hands up.
Okay, I'm not seeing folks here, but go ahead.
That's okay.
There
So
we
what
go.
you're saying is after Kendra and the therapist talk and they could fix the problem.
I'm sorry, Israel, can you say that again?
Oh, okay. So after Kendra and the therapist fix the problem, everything is good.
Yes, exactly. So when Kendra and the therapist because Kendra had never talked to the therapist about her feelings, and the therapist learned something from Kendra. She learned that maybe there needs to be a different way of working with Kendra, because Kendra had an idea of how she wanted to be treated and how she wanted the therapist to work for her. So what happened was Kendra became the employer and the therapist became the employee. So in this case, Kendra was telling the therapist, this is how I want you to touch me. This is how we're going to do this. And these are my goals. And the therapist thought that was a great idea. And she changed the way she worked with Kendra. So that's really important. Sometimes people just don't know. And so it's really important that we express our feelings so people know. So Israel, does that make sense to what you were just saying? Did I hear a yes there?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I see a big smile. That's good. All right.
And John, real quick, we are at 2 minutes.
Okay. So these are some examples. So what I want you guys to think about is to begin thinking about becoming a self-advocate in your planning meetings. When you go to meetings, Do you speak up for yourselves? Do you come to a meeting with a goal? So I want you all to think about one goal that's really important to you, not just to your parents, not just to the teachers, and not to everybody else at the meeting, but important to you. What's important to you that you want to accomplish right now, today, or tomorrow, or sometime in the future? Think about that. And then telling people, this is what I want for me. Okay, so that's assignment number 2. Everybody with me on that? Does everybody understand that assignment? To think about a goal that's really important to you that you want to achieve. Can you all do that for me?
I know.
Okay, I want you to think about that. So, I want to thank everybody for the comments you're making. It's really important. The comments you made today are good examples of what a self-advocate is. All right, so that's really important. So I'm going to turn it over now to Wendy, and I'm sorry, who's your partner there?
Yeah, Jeff.
Jeff, thank you. I'm terrible with
Yeah.
names. I'm totally terrible with names. My apologies. So Jeff and
Sure
Wendy,
thing, no
you're
problem.
on.
So I see also, Noah, you have your hand up. Did you have a quick question before we move into our evaluations and our final wrap up?
Well, no, no, it's not really a question, but I kind of but I kind of take it back from one of the stories that he said about about someone calling that person who has disability the R word or whatever. I I I just feel like I just feel like that's not how you call person who has disability, and plus it might really hurt their feelings. So yeah.
So
I don't wanna
Noah,
be
that really
called.
resonates with you, and that's really good. That's what self-advocacy is about. So when you hear people using that kind of language, you step up, you say something about that, and you don't make any apologies about saying something about it like that. That's really good for you. Good for you. That's really good. All right, Wendy.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much all for being so active and responding to questions and really being a part of this webinar. It shows that you're really listening and working to be able to understand so that you'll then be able to make these changes and start following through with this in your own lives. So that's wonderful.